Well, we're going to get to the holy part of April Fool's Day in a moment too, because that wasn't an April Fool's. But happy Easter, happy Passover, as we celebrate this holy, holy season. And as you know, I love everything there is about dreaming, about prayer, about meditation, about God, because these are the portals that take you into dimensions that transcend time and space. If you are new here to Soul Center, we welcome you. We are so glad you are here spending your Easter and Passover Sunday with us. We are a trans-denominational community, meaning that we are not non-denominational, meaning that we don't not associate with a denomination. We're trans-denominational, and we follow the golden thread that connects all religions, all indigenous teachings from around the world, from the natives of the Australia to the Native Americans, to the shamans of South America, to the gurus and goddesses of the East, and to some of those that we refer to as the master teachers that include Yeshua, also known as Jesus, and Moshe, also known as Moses, and Muhammad. We celebrate all of them. And to us, as they often have said, you've probably heard before, that when any great master is teaching, they will show the way, and they often will point to things. And oftentimes, as they are pointing, people get lost in thinking like, oh, they're looking at the finger and figuring out how. The ego likes to figure out how to do things. The ego would like a punch list. If you could just tell me how. And there are millions of books out there right now by some of the most contemporary shamans that we have. You've got your Louise Hayes and your Wayne Dyers and some of our forefathers and foremothers. You've got your Eva Bell Werbers and Ernest Holmes and Joel Goldsmith of mystical teachings. And the deep and profound aspects of that are the embodiment of it. The embodiment of it to transcend the daily experience of lack and limitation, even when you're under the false illusion of limited goodness, which can also be interpreted as mediocrity, a false sense of good. And so to allow yourself, what we do in our community, by the classes we offer, by our Sunday services, is we're offering the opportunities to just begin to commune with the divine in a way that allows you to have it as an experience, because it is the experience that you actually begin to feel the presence. It's really nice to theorize and philosophize, but it's in the juice is when it's in your bones, when you feel it closer to you, and it says in the Quran, than your neck vein. Or in the Hebrew Bible and Christian Bible, closer to you than your breathing and your breath. This is the presence of God. It is with us everywhere we go. As it is said in all the traditions, we are all born, created in the image and likeness of God. But how is that as an experience? And so today, as we move into our new month of bountiful blessings, because that is the nature of God. God is bountiful blessings expressing ceaselessly, eternally. There are eternal energies of goodness that are back of all life. God is the expression of beauty, love, peace, grace, joy, truth. These are eternal energies that never stop. The transitory, illusionary energies that belong to the human realm come from that which we call fear. And fear is what creates the illusion of separation. And the aspects of fear, guilt and shame and worry, annoyance, anger, frustration, those are the energies that just begin to bring about a feeling of separation, because whenever you're feeling any of those energies, you're going to feel separate, A, from goodness, and B, in extreme situations, from everybody else. And so in our spiritual practice, we want to understand, as you've heard me say many times, understand the language of God, the language of truth, the language of the divine, because most of us are going around with a sense of amnesia, and we've forgotten how to read, interpret, divine right discernment, how to interpret the language of God. And the language of God is the language of truth, it's the language of joy, it's the language of beauty, it's profound grace in every area of our lives. And so we just want to be open to that. We just want to be open to that. And we also want to know that in the language of God, in the language of truth and beauty, there is a way, even in grief, even in sadness. I will never forget the first time I ever had the most profound experience of sadness. Everything is about how you approach it. And until we're in ceaseless meditation, and ceaseless meditations, if you've heard me talk about it before, that is the most profound, that's the being in the world but not of the world. And as we celebrate Easter, the resurrection as Yeshua, that was his journey into the oneness, into the expression as a master teacher. And we all go through that resurrection. As the master teacher Moses would have brought forward, that the liberation from bondage, as the Israelites were moving out of bondage under Pharaoh into the freedom, and it had nothing to do with there being a they of the Egyptians controlling them and that type of liberation at the small self level. It had to do with a greater and grander experience of liberation that each one of us is seeking, because right now, unless you are in a constant state of bliss every moment of every day, and you feel grace and beauty and love and joy, and you are being of service in every way, shape, and form, because as an enlightened master, one of the things that you will find on your journey, and every single one of us on our journey, is going to uncover the very things that need to be healed. Everybody on the planet has something to be healed. The thing I love about our tradition here in the New Thought, we're part of the New Thought community. New Thought community is, again, that trans-denominational experience of knowing and loving everything, that golden thread that runs through all the religions and all the traditions. And as I was matriculating, going through ministerial school, and one of our jobs in ministerial school is to study all the religions and all the traditions. And it is so glorious. And there are a lot of people in traditional religions that kind of keep themselves partitioned into particular areas. Okay, I'm a Christian, I can only do this. Oh, can't look at that because I got to stay here. I'm a Jew, I can only look at this, I can't look at that because I got to be here. There's a way that you can honor your lineage and be completely open to understanding and the love and the language of all religions and all traditions. And that's what I love about our teaching. It's very inclusive. It's all inclusive, and it's about the true interpretation of the sacred text. Whether that sacred text is the Bhagavad Gita, whether it is the Quran, whether it is the Hebrew Bible or the Christian Bible, it's about understanding that when they were writing these sacred texts, they were using a vernacular and idiomatic expressions to convey a feeling tone. And all the sacred texts were inscribed in a particular vibration that the scribes would hold that vibration and feel the presence of God. And it had zero to do with the literal translation that some people misunderstand. And so, simply said, there's a lot of expressions of how in the world of the human experience, there are laws that govern the universe, the laws that govern the human experience. So there are laws that govern the world of the human experience, because when you incarnated to become a human being, of which we chose to be here, as we chose to incarnate, well, one of the things you want to do is have an experience. And the only way to experience something that you are is to have an experience of something you're not. So in order to experience love, you might have to have an experience of the separation of love to bring you back into love. If you are just ceaselessly in love, then you are just feeling that as bliss and grace. But if you want to have a dynamic of contrast, then you come into this field called the human experience. And that's what it's set up with. It's set up with contrast of hot and cold and up and down, and the laws of gravity, the law of attraction. There are the metaphysical laws that govern the human experience, and then there are the eternal experiences of God that never cease. And we are migrating towards that experience of grace. And every single one of us, there's not one, nobody will be left behind. Even the misinterpretation of the chosen people in the Jewish tradition. If you were to really understand what the chosen people are the ones that choose. They choose God, they choose wholeness, they choose grace, they choose beauty. But there's some sort of misinterpretation. that only a certain people, and that only if you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, if you accept the holy light of truth and grace and of who you are, born in the image and likeness of God, that is what you are accepting. But that got misconstrued as well. And so we all want to be seekers of the truth. That's all that matters. All that should matter in any given situation is, what is the truth that will set me free? And because the truth is our gateway to bliss and joy, which in the human experience, one of my favorite things is fun. I love fun. Fun is good. Fun is what got me here. Fun and laughter and joy is what got me here. And being of service. But there's a lot of us that put kind of mental constructs up, and we resist our resurrection. We resist our liberation from bondage. And we settle for a level of mediocrity. Now there is, as you've heard me say before, there is a divine inertia that wants to pull us to our liberation. And it is our resistance to that which creates suffering. And suffering is simply the resistance of migrating and listening to the voice of our own heart and soul. One of the other things I loved as I matriculated through the teachings, and of which we are going to be bringing some of those teachings through here. Of course, we're doing that as the meditation class. That's going to be fun, so I really encourage you to join in. Because meditation, it's fun, it's easy. To be, really? Oh my God. Your mind starts to rewire. Your neural net starts to rewire so that you may hear truth on a regular basis. That's good? Everybody's looking for that. Everybody wants to know, okay, have you ever been in one of those situations where you're trying to figure out, should I do this or should I do that? And what are we doing when we say, should I do this or should I do that? You want the best experience, right? Well, what if it's I know what to do, exactly what to do, what's going to yield the best experience. Because I'm listening to the voice of providence, the voice of God, the voice of my soul. There should be nothing more important than getting familiar with your soul. Your soul is that aspect of yourself that lives outside of time and space, that is in so much love, that is in so much grace, that is in so much beauty. It is beyond your gender, it is beyond your age, it is beyond your circumstances, it is beyond your ethnicity. It is magnificent. And again, I have to, remind myself every once in a while, because I used to be one of those sleepwalking people. When I'm back in the olden days when I thought, partying was really all there was to life, and go hang out with some friends, and go to the beach and have margaritas or whatever like that. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. But there is a high in God that is, I used to make fun of all the people, all the real spiritual people that were really committed to their practice. Whatever. You guys are you drank the punch, hook, line, and sinker. That false sense of bliss. And it's oh my God. I wanted to go back and apologize to everybody I ever made fun of, which I did, partly in prayer. Because that is part of the thing as we're journeying through life. We want to become aware of the laws. One of the things that makes life so much easier is when you kind of tap into what all the masters, Moses, Jesus, and especially in the teachings of Buddha, the art of non-attachment. But that is a tricky, slippery little bird sometimes, because it's we think we're not attached. Have you ever had one of those experiences where oh yeah, there's this thing and I really kind of want it, but I'm not attached. And all of a sudden you don't get it, and then you're oh, well, you were attached. So we want to be open to what is non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean you have no goals. It doesn't mean you're just kind of whatever. That's kind of what gives the airy-fairies our bad name, where it's okay, that's all good, even though I'm having a miserable time. It's no. If I'm having a miserable time, it means I'm attached. And so we don't want to be attached. So what do? We have to be very cognizant and very aware. And we want to spend more time in our day cultivating the teachings of truth through our readings, through our mantras, through our prayer, through our meditations, that cultivate joy. Because every time we heal something that is suppressed in the cellular memory of our pain body, as Eckhart Tolle would say, or our trauma body, every time that just opens up and allows our bandwidth to expand, that we can hold more life, more love, more spaciousness, and more time. And as someone who used to be so bogged down, I was bogged down in the time-space continuum of like feeling like, oh, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough resources, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough that, those are really not productive affirmations, if you catch yourself. I do have enough time, I do have enough resources, I do have enough money or prosperity. But it's really nice, and as Rena was saying, the I am presence is something that we want to cultivate, but you want to cultivate it until it's all the way into your heart, into your bones, into your veins. You want to feel it circulating through your blood. You want to feel it coming out your breath. You want to be so aware of the omnipresence and the omniamorous light of God. And it's like, sometimes I marvel that I'm speaking like this anymore because, like I said, I would have been like, okay, crazy person. But it is true. And whether we call God, Allah or Krishna or Rama or Buddha, all of those names are the pathways to enlightenment. And we want to be open to that. And, so the practice of forgiveness is one of the ways that we start to re-qualify the energy. There's the old Hawaiian Polynesian practice of Ho'oponopono, which is where you move into the field of forgiveness. And last week I was sharing with you that we want to keep a journal. You want to keep a journal, and on one side of the journal, we want to have reflecting of what's happened in the day. So at the end of the day, you'll reflect on everything that went down. And if I had a moment of frustration or worry or doubt or fear, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean that up. Because whatever you don't clean up, then you carry forward and you just bring it along to tomorrow. And you don't want to bring that along to tomorrow. You want to thrive. I'm assuming we all want to thrive. And we all want to listen to the language of our soul. The law of emergence says that there is something that wants to rise up and express itself, a divine magnificence from your soul that wants to express itself and experience itself into this world. And as we allow that unfettered and uninterrupted and unmisconstrued, as we make it so important, we want to make it important that to hear and understand the language of truth and to not be sidetracked by the world of effects that is going on out there. Because one of the things that we want to make sure is, it's like Neil Donald Walsh says in Conversations with God. Great book. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. I highly recommend that you read Conversations with God. And he talks about things that are happening are merely things that are happening, but it's how you feel about it that actually matters, and becoming aware of what those feelings mean. And so circling back to the feelings of grief, worry, doubt, despair, sadness, and that experience that I had with sadness, where sadness, I was having an experience of sadness, and in the old me, that could take me down into depression. It could take me down into despair. And that's because I'm listening to the erroneous voice of separation that is just taking me deeper and deeper. And depression is just simply a sign that we are separating ourselves from the divine. And as we allow ourselves to move into the oneness with the divine, as the master teacher Ishawa would say, these and greater things ye shall do, this is what we want to embody into our beingness. And so it's like everything comes to a crossroads. There's a crossroads that you come to, and you want to be especially keenly aware of those crossroads when it's any of those feelings of anger, hurt, despair. In this case, it was sadness, and I got to the crossroads, and I was like, oh, let me listen listen to the voice of the sadness, because coded and loaded in any energy is the truth. It doesn't matter what the energy is. If you seek it, you shall find it. And so I listen, oh, what's going on in the sadness? Oh, okay, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, as I invited God into the equation, just simply saying, God, I invite you to be with me right now as I am feeling these feelings of sadness. And then the truth shall set you free. That's what activates it. That activates the truth to set you free. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling beauty in the sadness. I started feeling where it could take me to truth. So I'm at the crossroads, and the crossroads is, if I do zero, if I do nothing, and energy in motion stays in motion until something of equal or greater comes along and disturbs that energy. So I could leave it alone, and I could let it snowball down into despair, into depression. Or I can recognize, oh, I'm at a crossroads, I'm feeling sadness, I'm not going to make it wrong or bad. I'm going to feel into the truth. Oh my God, there's beauty in the sadness, there's a humbling, and it brought me to my knees. And it opened me to a truth, and to the truth of a revelation, because that's what the embodiment is when we have a revelation. So we're all seeking revelations, and so I am going to include in the assignment from last week. I know you all went out and either bought a journal, or you took the journal that you had in the closet that you bought for that workshop 2 years ago, and then you wrote 2 sentences in it, and then you're like, oh, I need to go dust that off, and it's like, get that journal out. For most of us, we didn't even have to go buy anything. How easy is that? You can take a pad of paper if you like, and we've got on the left side reflecting over and cleaning up the day at the end of the day. And sometimes you're going to have a day where it was like, oh my God, there's really nothing to clean. I don't have to bring any redemptive forgiveness energies here. So you can go right over to the right side of the journal, which is gratitude. All the things you're grateful for, because we know that gratitude is a creative energy. It brings more into your life. And then we want to take from there, and we're going to add another page to your journal this week. And don't worry, if you didn't do it last week, you can just jump on board right now, and you can get that journal going today. And then we're going to have that third page, which is, what is seeking to emerge from me? What does my soul want to bring into the world through the art, the law of creation? And we want to listen to that, because I will tell you, oftentimes, as we prepare to move into our closing here, oftentimes you're going to hear something from your soul that seems like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But if you really listen to it, it might be contradictory to what your ego thinks or knows as fun, a false sense of fun. And it might say, oh hey, instead of going to Starbucks and getting one of those burnt coffee-laden, acid-ridden coffee drinks and gossiping about whatever, I'm going to go to that drumming circle instead and have some fun. Yes. I'm going to go to that meditation class at Soul Center. I'm going to do whatever it is, because you're going to find on the path everything is going to start to exponentially grow into things that bring you joy and bring you happiness and pure, as we talked about I think it was a couple months ago, the difference between happiness, which is tied to time and space and condition, it's conditional, and joy, which is tied to nothing. There's non-attachment in joy, non-attachment there, and true joy is bliss and grace and beauty. And so I'm going to just conclude here, and we're going to continue with a couple more affirmations, but I want you to share the affirmation with your neighbor. One of the good things as we follow in some of the teachings of Yeshua, one of the master teachers, as 2 or more come together, we evoke. So we're definitely 2 or more, but we're going to just bring it a little bit more intimate. So if you could just turn to the person to your right or to your left, and if you have an odd number on your row, you might have to turn to the person behind you. And if that doesn't work, then you can just be a trio. And we just want to say to that person, I am filled and express love.
I am filled and express love.
I always seek and understand the language of truth.
I always seek and understand the language of truth.
I rejoice in fulfilling my soul's desires.
I rejoice in fulfilling my soul's desires.
All of my relationships are filled with divine cooperation.
All of my relationships are filled with divine cooperation.
it is.
And so it is.
And if you'll just join me as we turn within, we've just created a prayer field. And so we're going to open into this prayer field just a little bit more. If you'll just turn within. You might even want to bring your hands to your heart. The heart is the nexus point where we hear the language of our soul, where divine right discernment resides in our energy body. I'm so grateful to take a moment and remember that there is a bliss, a grace, a nirvana beyond our wildest dreams. That is the truth. It is always the truth. That omnipresence, the omnipotence that we call God or Allah or Jehovah or Yahweh or any of the names that we call the Creator that is all love, all good in every way, shape, and form, that which created the fields of rolling emerald green grass and blows the breeze, that which illuminates the stars and the moon, that which beats our hearts, and that is in our very breath. We open to the holy light and we allow ourselves to be so consumed by grace, so consumed by goodness, so consumed by wellness, beauty, love, joy, prosperity, and benevolent abundance. We open to the divine nature of our own beingness, remembering the truth that we are created in the image and likeness of God, and we allow ourselves to know that to our bones, right here, right now, we let it be. We allow ourselves to be informed, to hear it, to seek it, to find it, to rejoice in it, and it is from a place of gratitude and thanksgiving, deep and abiding devotional appreciation and heartfelt compliance, that we accept it into our world, into our experience, into our bones, into our breath, into our lives, simply by saying, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen. 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 Ashe, Shalom, Hotep, and Hallelujah. Ah, yes. Happy Easter. And yes, as it is April Fool's Day, we also want to embrace the energy of the Fool. The Fool was sometimes that light-hearted court jester that could bring forward bad news in a good way. And that's the energy that we want to, on this sacred high holy day of April Fool's Day, that's what we want to bring into our experience. And so we're going to call the ushers forward as we participate, in the law of circulation, knowing that as we participate in the law of circulation, that there is no money that is my money and your money. The money that we circulate is the omnipresent abundance of God. And as we bring it into a vibratory field, so if you're holding your tithe in your hand in prayer position, we open it into the field of ever-expanding good. We open into the field of abundant prosperity and profitability. And we know that as we give this money, as we give God's money, because money is just energy in circulation, as we give it, we can allow it, as dictated by spiritual law, to return to us minimally no less than tenfold. And so I'm grateful to know that the laws of abundance are upon us, and we simply allow it to be as the ushers go forward, and we allow ourselves to bring our